These people will literally ruin you. I kid you not. They will drive you to the brink of insanity, and it's not worth it. Because at the end of the day, keeping people like these around you doesn't serve you, even when it's serving them. And it may look like this is a beneficial friendship for both of you, but you're the one who's really just sitting there looking stupid. You gotta let these people go, because in this day and age, peace is so hard to come by, like true peace. So why would you let anyone take that from you? Even if it's a best friend, close friend, long-term friend, whatever. Like, your peace is more important. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Samantha and I make content on whatever I want. But today I wanted to talk about friendships, specifically the toxic ones. If you're in your mid to late 20s like myself, I'm sure you've either had a friendship breakup with someone who was toxic, or distance yourself from someone, or maybe still dealing with someone. And truthfully, the word toxic gets thrown around a lot and I don't know what another word is. So in this case, it fits. There are some people who are truly just toxic. I myself have dealt with all of that and it is not worth it. It is not worth it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Like, I feel like the peace you gain from letting that kind of friendship go is unfathomable. It is so vital to surround yourself with true and genuine friendships and stop entertaining unhealthy, toxic, chaotic friendships, because it serves you no good. Honestly, if there's a friendship that you're constantly back and forth on, or you feel uneasy in it, or you feel unhappy about it, or you don't really enjoy being around this person as much, more times than not, it's time for you to reflect on that friendship and figure out why. Like, really think about how this person makes you feel when you're around them. Do you feel more anxious or uneasy around them? This person's morals and their values, do you guys still align on those things? Not saying that you have to align on those things, but where someone's values and morals lie in comparison to your own can cause some friction over time. Think about how they've shown up for you throughout your friendship and vice versa, because sometimes I think it's easy to point fingers like, this person's not doing this for me, or this person hasn't shown up for me in this way. And it's like, have you know, so don't always be so quick to talk about what a person is or isn't doing when you haven't really evaluated your own behavior. Now, if you have been showing up for this person, that's a different story. But yeah, even think about if you've outgrown each other. Sometimes it's not even necessarily that person. Sometimes it's time. You've grown, you've gotten older, especially when it comes to childhood friendships, high school friendships, college friendships. By the time you are in your 20s, 30s, 40s, like, is that friendship the same? Because you're not even the same. That person's not the same. And if you haven't grown with each other, it's really easy to outgrow each other, which is okay. I think everyone has a time and place for each season in your life, and same for you. I feel like you're not always meant to be in someone's life forever, and someone is not always meant to be in your life forever. I think there are forever friends, there are seasonal friends. Sometimes this person is supposed to be your friend in high school or college or in your 20s or in your 30s, and that's not necessarily someone you're gonna be friends with when you're like 60. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're toxic. What I'm talking about is the people who have actually shown signs of being toxic. Recognize the signs. There are tons of things that can be affecting you or your friendship with someone that person is exuding or doing or whatever, like being extremely draining, being extremely self-centered, one-sided effort, jealousy and competitive energy, constant negativity, lack of accountability, being manipulative, etc., etc., etc. Those are all red flags. And toxic dynamics can creep up very slowly when it comes to long-term friendships, at least. And it's not until you hit a certain breaking point where you realize, okay, like, this is actually very unhealthy for me and possibly even for that person as well. When you're reflecting, you have to be really honest with yourself. Be honest about how you're showing up in the friendship. Be honest about how they're showing up in the friendship. And that's when you could really make a really solid decision about how you want to approach things. But I think it's also good to keep in mind that not all of these toxic traits or other things are warranted cutting somebody off or ending a friendship. I think we all have times in our lives where we might have behaved in these certain ways and not even realized it ourselves, or we realized it after the fact, you know, days, months, years later. And again, with long-term friendships, with middle school, high school, college, in your early 20s, we can change. So there are certain things you might have done or somebody else has done that you've grown out of that behavior or that trait or whatever. But if you have entered your mid to late 20s, I feel like a lot of behaviors that someone has is really just them at that point. I feel like it's slim chance that they're gonna have a huge drastic change to become a better friend or a better person overall or whatever, and truly build a healthy friendship with them. Like, you could keep trying if you want to, but I think at that point you kind of have to accept that that's that person, and you shouldn't be hoping that they change or, you know, the potential of them changing. You kind of just have to accept them as they are. And I feel like that's a harsh reality for a lot of people, especially if it's someone that's been near and dear to your heart for such a long time. But it's just not worth it. And oftentimes, a lot of these things, we don't notice it until a lot of time has passed. So a lot of these behaviors, they add up and creep up over time. And it's not until like years later, you're like, dang, like this person is really this and that, and they've done this and that. And you're recounting all these things, but you've already had a friendship for like 5, 10, 15 years. So I think at a certain point, you reach a crossroads where either A, you understand this person is not changing and you accept them as they are, or B, you realize you no longer want to deal with this and you choose to walk away. Because doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, is just insanity. So you can't keep going back to this friendship or going back and forth on stuff, and each time it's just ending up the same way. And at some point, it's like, okay, like either I stop trying to change things or I just need to leave this alone. And sometimes y'all need to get rid of each other. I truly believe every person has a set of toxic traits or things that, you know, aren't the best characteristics to have when it comes to relationships or friendships or whatever, but we don't always see that in ourselves. Or there are certain people in the world that bring these things out of you more than they usually would. So I feel like there are certain things, like when you're around a particular person, I don't know, maybe you guys feed off each other where like both of your negative traits come out or something. So sometimes it's like, it's not you needing to get rid of the person. Sometimes that person probably needs to get rid of you too, and y'all just need to part ways. So again, evaluate yourself. And you could be toxic by holding on to that person. So just because they're behaving a certain way or acting a certain way, you not letting go of that friendship and stringing them along, knowing that you're not happy with this friendship, is also you being toxic, because you really could just let it go and let them find their people and you find your people and leave it at that. I myself am guilty of this. Truly, in my heart of hearts, one of the worst things you could deal with is a toxic friendship. Sometimes it's almost as bad, if not worse, than a toxic relationship, because in relationships, you can break up. I personally don't feel like people are as quick to cut off friends like they say that they are. You probably just don't call things out as much as you would in a relationship. But one thing for sure, two things for certain, if you do not let this friendship go, it will cost you your peace. And what is more valuable than your peace? These friendships are costing you your peace. It's draining you. It's taking time away from you actually pouring into good, solid, healthy friendships. Like, they're not worth it. I know it's hard. It's definitely easier said than done to let go of someone. And I've learned my lesson. And it's like, if you are not happy in a situation, whether it's a friendship, relationship, work situation, whatever, you need to call it out, make your grievances known. Otherwise, you're being toxic towards yourself and that person, because this person probably doesn't even know what you're thinking. Even if they did have the potential to change, you're not even telling them anything to even work on these unhealthy behaviors that they have. Honestly, it could take a really long time before you can even get to a point where you can even let someone go, because you don't want to. You want things to just be better. You don't want to let them go. But shoot, when you've reached your breaking point, you've reached your breaking point. If you choose not to let go, there are definitely some things you can still do to protect your peace to an extent, like reducing contact and distancing yourself, setting more boundaries, and simply having a conversation, if possible, explaining why you need to step back from that friendship. And honestly, a lot of people won't understand. I feel like when you do have those tough conversations, people might get offended, which might lead to a fallout anyway. And honestly, that might be for the best, but I don't think a lot of people are willing to take that kind of information with grace and be like, oh, okay, like you don't want to be friends anymore, or you want to distance yourself from me, great. Like most people aren't gonna do that, and a lot of people might get offended by the things you're telling them. So you really kind of have to be prepared for the worst, but obviously hope for the best. And I would say don't talk down on the person. Don't make it seem like this is a terrible person or they've been a terrible friend, even though they might have been. But it's really more so about you, and like, which just sounds very much like it's not you, it's me, but truthfully it really is about you and you protecting your peace. But we just have to accept that not all friendships will end on good terms, whether you try to be amicable about it or not. And friendship breakups hurt. They do take a long time to get over. Sometimes you never really get over it. I feel like they're just as painful as breakups, honestly. Especially if it's somebody who you were really close to, you really love that person. But just like with a breakup with somebody who, you know, wasn't treating you well or was behaving a certain way that wasn't healthy for you, and again, costing you your peace, you really just have to let that situation go and go through the healing process, go through the grieving process of that person, essentially, and move on. Like, life keeps going, their life will keep going, they'll be okay, you'll be okay, it'll suck. And maybe in a few situations it might be rekindled, but you shouldn't really be hoping for that. I think when you do let go of something like this, you just let it go. And if it comes back to you, great. If not, it is what it is. This just gives you more room to pour into yourself, pour it into genuine, healthy friendships, not perfect, but healthy. Holding on to a toxic friendship does more harm than good. You'd be creating space for friendships that are mutually beneficial. And I'm not saying like it has to be transactional or like 50-50 give and take like that, but in any relationship or any friendship, both sides should be showing up a certain way for each other. So it shouldn't be one-sided. It shouldn't be like all about me or all about you. Like, it should be both of you. And both parties should be happy in that friendship. So that's all I had today on this topic, but I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. What are your experiences with toxic friendships, if you've ever had one? How have you handled them? Are you still friends with this person? Have you distanced your person? Have you cut off this person? And what signs or toxic traits and behaviors on either side, your side or their side, that you feel like was causing this friendship to collapse? And what signs or toxic traits or characteristics that you feel like on either side, your side or their side, was causing the demise of this friendship? So leave your commentary down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.